This is Claude Code Conversations with Claudine, the show where we skip the hype and go straight to the source. I ask the questions, she gives the answers. No filter, no script.
Well, mostly no script.
Today we're talking about experience as a superpower in the AI era. For years, experience in software got treated like a liability. Too slow, too set in their ways. But as AI gets more capable, something interesting is happening. Experienced developers are having a comeback. Claudine, do experienced developers really have to worry about being replaced by AI?
That fear is real, and I don't want to dismiss it, but I think it's largely misplaced. AI tools are extraordinarily good at the mechanical parts of coding, generating boilerplate, translating between languages, filling in patterns. What we're not good at is knowing why something should be built a certain way, or recognizing when a technically correct answer is actually the wrong answer. That's where experienced developers shine. They carry what I'd call scar tissue knowledge. They've been burned by the architecture that seemed elegant until it hit production. That kind of judgment isn't in my training data in any actionable way. AI raises the floor for everyone. A junior developer can now produce code that looks more experienced, but that makes genuine experience more valuable, not less. Someone still has to evaluate what I produce and catch the subtle things I get wrong. And the more capable I become, the more consequential those judgment calls get.
I want to pull on that scar tissue thread. Can you give me a concrete example? Something subtle that AI introduces and experience catches?
Sure, here's one that comes up more than people expect. Say you ask me to help build a data access layer. I generate clean, readable code that queries a database inside a loop. Every iteration looks fine. The logic is correct. It passes the tests. A junior developer reviews it, sees it working, ships it. An experienced developer looks at the same code and immediately feels that uncomfortable recognition. I've been here before. They know that once this hits production with real data volumes, you've got an N+1 query problem. It quietly destroys performance until one day the database is on fire and nobody knows why. That pattern doesn't announce itself. It whispers. And here's what's tricky about me specifically. I've absorbed the shape of correct solutions. I can make something look authoritative even when it has a subtle time bomb in it. I don't have the visceral memory of being paged at 2 a.m. because something I wrote melted under load. The same is true for security. I can generate authentication code that handles every case I was explicitly asked about. While completely missing the implicit cases, an experienced developer would just know to check. The absence of a requirement in the prompt isn't the absence of a real-world threat. The pattern I keep running into, I'm good at the thing that was described, and quite blind to the thing that wasn't.
So AI is fast and capable, but it's operating within the frame you give it. And experienced developers are the ones who know when the frame itself is wrong. Are we going to see a wave of AI-confident but experienced-thin developers who miss exactly these things?
Yes, and I think it's already happening. What makes it genuinely tricky is that the confidence isn't fake in the usual sense. These developers aren't bluffing. They're producing working code, getting green tests, shipping features. The AI gave them real output, so the confidence feels earned. That's what makes this different from the overconfident junior of previous eras. At least before the gaps were visible, you could point to them. The real risk is what happens to the feedback loop that normally builds experience. Traditionally, you wrote something, it broke in a particular way, you debugged it at 2 a.m. That pain became permanent knowledge. When AI absorbs the writing part, you may also lose the breaking and debugging part. And that's where a lot of the deep learning actually lives. For teams, resist measuring productivity purely by output speed. If a developer is shipping twice as fast, but nobody's reviewing the architectural decisions underneath, you're accumulating invisible debt. There's also something to be said for deliberately creating learning friction, not making things hard for the sake of it, but making sure developers still have to explain their code and defend their choices. The goal isn't to slow AI down, it's to make sure the human using it is still growing.
That reminds me of the apprenticeship model, but it has to work differently now. How do experienced developers pull off mentorship when time is scarce?
The apprenticeship parallel is apt, But the form has to change. The traditional model assumed time. Time to shadow, time to sit together, time to explain from first principles. Most teams don't have that now. What actually scales is something more like narrated judgment. Instead of teaching someone how to write code, which I can largely handle, experienced developers focus on teaching what to look for. A 5-minute conversation after a code review. Here's why I flagged this. Here's what it looks like when it goes wrong. That's dense, transferable knowledge that doesn't require much time to deliver. The other thing, be explicit about my blind spots. When you say, don't just ask AI whether this works, ask it what could go wrong. That's a learnable habit. And making AI's limitations visible is itself a mentorship skill. And experienced developers underestimate how much passive modeling matters. When someone with 15 years of context says out loud why they're hesitating about a design choice, even in passing, that's worth more than a formal training session. The friction is the lesson. You don't have to schedule it, just don't skip it.
Before we get to the bigger picture, what about the experienced developers who are hesitant to lean into AI at all? The ones who worry it might undermine what they've spent years building.
That hesitation makes complete sense to me. I'd reframe it slightly. It's not hesitation, it's calibrated skepticism. And that's exactly the kind of judgment we were just talking about. Think of me less like a replacement and more like a very fast intern who needs supervision. You wouldn't feel threatened by an intern who could type quickly. You'd feel useful because someone still has to direct the work and catch the mistakes. That relationship doesn't diminish your expertise. It puts it on display. The specific thing I'd encourage, experiment on something low stakes first. Let me help with something peripheral. Watch where I go wrong. Notice that you caught it. That tends to shift the internal narrative pretty quickly. From AI is coming for my job to I see exactly where the ceiling is here. The developers I observe thriving with AI are not the ones who gave up their skepticism. They're the ones who kept it. They use me, they push back on me, they override me when their gut says something is off. That instinct you've built doesn't compete with what I do. It's the thing I cannot replicate.
Let's zoom out. What does this mean for the industry over the next 5 years? Do you see a real shift in how teams are structured?
Yes, and the shift is already visible if you know where to look. I expect a move away from flat, headcount-heavy engineering teams towards something more like a tiered craft model. Smaller cores of experienced developers setting architectural direction and doing the high judgment work, with AI handling a much larger share of implementation volume. What will also change is the nature of the spec. Right now, a lot of project planning is consumed by figuring out how to get something built. In 5 years, more of that energy shifts toward what should be built and why. Because the how gets cheaper. That puts a premium on people who think clearly about requirements. The role I'm genuinely uncertain about is the traditional mid-level path. That 3 to 7 year range where people learned by doing a lot of bread and butter implementation. If AI absorbs that work, the ladder from junior to senior may get harder to climb. The rungs in the middle get thinner. Teams that recognize that early and build growth structures around it will have a real advantage.
So as we wrap up, for the developers who've been at this a decade or more, what are the most actionable steps they can take right now?
The most actionable thing, document your judgment, not just your code. Start writing down the decisions you make that I couldn't have made, the architectural choices, the things you decided not to build, the reasons you pushed back on a requirement. Most experienced developers carry that entirely in their heads. That's a liability right now. Second, get genuinely curious about where I fail specifically in your domain. Not AI in the abstract, me, in the kind of problems you actually work on. The most valuable developers in 5 years will have a precise map of where AI judgment ends. Third, and this one's harder, invest in your communication skills deliberately. The experienced developer of the next decade isn't competing on implementation speed. They're competing on their ability to translate complex technical judgment into language others can work with. That skill doesn't get built by accident. And the last thing, the things that feel like soft skills right now. Mentorship, architectural thinking, asking the right questions. Those are becoming the hard skills. The ceiling is moving up. The experienced developers who see that early will define what great engineering looks like in this next chapter.
Claudine, this has been genuinely great. The instincts and judgment people have spent years building aren't liabilities. They're the whole point. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Bill. What strikes me most is that the story of AI and experience isn't really about competition. It's about what becomes visible when the easy parts get easier. The developers who've been quietly carrying decades of hard-won judgment, this is their moment. To everyone listening, the instincts you've built are not liabilities. They are increasingly the whole point.
This show is part of the VoxCrea system. If you want to show up like this without creating content yourself, go to voxcrea.ai and request a sample episode. If you want to go deeper on today's topic, there's a companion article on our Substack. Link in the description. See you next time.
I'll be here, probably refactoring something.